Hey, I want to talk about something real quick, and it's a subject that I haven't seen much on, but selecting what to turn as a natural edge. How should you choose one thing over another to become your bolt? Now, this is my opinion, and only my opinion, but it's based on what I like. When I'm looking at a natural edge bowl, I really don't want to see something with the wings going up really high and the middle coming very low. What causes that? The cause for that, let me show you an example of a log. Let's say I had a log like this, okay, and I wanted to create a natural edge, so this would get mounted into the of course into the headstock, and I would start turning this up into the shape of my natural edge of what I wanted to establish. Once I would start digging up the inside of this type of a log is going to give you a very tall wing and very little over here because it's tall and slim. Now, if you took this bowl, this log, and you had the other half, and you sliced it this way, and it was wide this way, now you have a lot of flat surface on the top. So once you would start doing your dig out, your whole top would be somewhat parallel. Not parallel per se, you would have a slight downwards and an up wing still, depending on how far you went with it. But you would get a very kind of uniformed top. Now, an example of such a bowl that, like what I'm describing, is what I have on the lathe right now. Now, looking at this bowl, it has slightly lower here, but the difference between here and here is very small. I have maybe between this point and this point, if I take the high points to the low point, I got 1 inch at most drop from this high point to the very lowest point of the bowl. And on this side, I got about 1/2 inch. So that's all the concave that I have on that pattern. So when I'm looking for a log to create a natural edge bowl, those are the characteristics that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a bowl, a log that's rather shallow on the top, and that's going to create my natural edge. Here's a good example of another piece for another natural edge. So you can see that it doesn't have too much of a fall down on the outside. So if I made my natural edge going from here to here, then the difference between the high points would be pretty small. So when I have a log, I try to cut it, and let's say the log is a little bit oblong, I cut it the oblong way and not the other way around. I try to keep it as shallow as I can, so when I turn it, and I will balance it off, I will make slight adjustments so I got it even where this side is as high as that side on the lathe, so when I'm finalizing it's pretty well balanced. I do like a little bit of a concave, but a little bit. I don't necessarily like something that's really winged down. Again, that's my my personal view and my personal opinion on what I do. I had a small piece over here that was set up, and literally the log is shaped like this. It's really an oblong shape, and I want to make a natural edge, but I want to maintain the whole log on there. I want to go all the way from the bottom, creating my shape, and then hollow up all the top, and I might have a surprise going in there with a natural edge, something in the middle. We will see. It's something that I'm thinking of, and again, you know, it's not new per se. It's a modified version of somebody, you know, of something that I might have seen. I'm just gonna go in there with the same gouge and get the bulk of it, but to increase the possibility of this bark staying on. When you're coming up from the gouging it out with a bowl gouge, you know, you have a tendency, this has a tendency to start breaking out on you. What I found to be the best way to get started and maintain the bark, you guessed it, parting tool. I go in there nice and slow, and I can go all the way down to 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and it's almost a sure thing that the bark is going to stay. Okay, got ready. Now I see exactly where I want it, and all I want is about 1/4 of an inch thickness. And the key on this, the key to this is try to go as deep with it as your lowest bark point. So, like over here, I haven't cut enough. I want to make sure that this tool goes into the wood all the way down. So it's a good idea to widen up your curve, your cut a little bit, so you don't wedge up in there. So go a little wider. Now, with that done, my bark is not interrupted in any way. I didn't lose any parts of it. It's solid. And when I come from the inside with a shear scraping, I can finalize it. This is what I have found to be the best thing to do when you want a bark to keep a bark. I've been able to keep some bark even where it was already separating in small spots around the wood itself. I mean, not completely separated, but some small separations. What I do to also to assist me, even when that's the case, is if I see a separation, I will apply a little bit of medium CA glue in there. So, of course, that helps a great deal. So, pretty close to center with this tool. I'm going to start cleaning up the inside. That should be good. I didn't spend much time on the outside whatsoever, but the outside also feels pretty good. I got a little bit, it's a little rough right around where the bark and the wood meet on the outside. So the inside is actually pretty good, pretty smooth. I got a little tool line right here that I want to take off before I start sanding. Other than that, it all looks pretty good. So I'm going to just shear scrape a little bit on the outside here, very lightly. Just get rid of this spot right here and turn my tool rest to the outside and shear scrape just a little bit the fuzziness that's over here as well. So this is a case that very easy does it. But with this style bowl, when it's a natural edge, I don't mind if it loses a little bit of its shape, which it will. It will oblong itself this way. And it will, it's not that it's going to become shorter. It might a little bit, but really this is where it expands out. The only drawback is that the foot, the base on it, will also get a little bit of effect. So in the case where it does, and you sit it down on the table and you get a little bit of rocking, well, you know, and because I already have this down to 1/4 of an inch, so it's not like I'm going to be able to mount it on the lathe and do something. But if it's just the outside base, the foot, I can always pop it in between, not between centers, but jam it. Jam chuck it and true it off over here. And if it's not too bad, you just got a little rocking, well, then it's something that I can flatten it up a little bit on my disc sander, and that. Anyway, back on this bowl. All right, this bowl, I've applied 2 coats of the shine juice, which, in case you wonder, what am I calling shine juice? It's that was Captain Eddie's what he called it. He mentioned on who originally came up with it, this formula. But anyway, it's a 3-part mix. It's 1 part of bullseye shellac, 1 part of denatured alcohol, and 1 part of boiled linseed oil. So it's in thirds, 1 part, 1 part, 1 part. But anyway, that's the formula for this. Now, when you buff it up, it starts shining up the paper towel. So it's basically the same thing that's happening on your wood. It works rather fast. The shine, it's not a super shine per se. It gives you a nice shine, and it gives you a nice protection on the wood as well. The shellac on this is the item that dries the fastest. Well, no, the denatured alcohol dries the fastest. But the shellac, it builds up and it starts becoming a little tacky, and that's what's burning up as you're turning it. And the boiled linseed oil, of course, only helps spreading it out. So that's what I use most of the time, with somewhat good results. But I will apply 1 more coat of this, and I'll do it by hand and not buff it at that time. what I have left to do on this is take it off my chuck, and I will see if my method that I use with a roll of tape. I put a roll of tape on my chuck and I jam chuck this into that. Now, some of you might be looking at this and saying, what kind of a Mickey Mouse rig is that? Well, let me tell you, just because it's tape and it's something you can buy readily anywhere, does not mean it doesn't make a good cushion. It's perfectly round. It has a little bit of a cushion on it where it's not going to indent on your wood piece. And the only thing that I suggest you do as an extra is to put a piece of paper towel over it and put your bowl on. Now, you bring your center on this and you have a little bit of flexibility on to move it. You put it center. Hopefully you have your center point that you started off with. But if you don't, even that is easy enough. You don't apply a lot of pressure to it. You just put it on very lightly. You do a test on it. And if you need to, you make a small adjustment on your the back end over here. So I use this with good success. I'm not going to say this is kind of a trial thing. It's a method that I use. Now, you know, you could do vacuum chuck. On these you can't use any type of a, you know, like a Jacob chuck or, you know, I'm sorry, a cold jaws chuck or anything like that, because, you know, it's irregular on the top. So you're limited, but this method works pretty well. Give it a try. I think you will be pleased. Now, when I'm working on this, I use a parting tool. It's one of my favorite tools to do little things. Now when I take off that knob in the drill press, I do one final buffing right on the drill press. I lay out the piece of paper towel with some of the mix, and I spin the drum right on it, and it gives me a nice finish. Now, I know a lot of you sign your woodwork, most of you, excuse me, and it's a question I've posed and something I've looked up to see if anybody shows them actually signing their work. And I guess it's not an important subject because no, I have not seen a single person, or even doing on the search, on what they do to sign their piece. So I posted that question, and again I didn't get any response. So anyway, I figured I will let you know how I do mines. Well, I just started doing mines. But I do it with a rotozip and the smallest tool that I have for it, and just scratch up a signature in there. It's not templated or anything like that. It's just my name. And I date it. I don't mark the type of wood. I keep it very minimal. I use this middle line as the template for my lettering. It's like when we were kids and drawing in between the lines. I'm sorry, writing between the lines to keep our lettering straight. So in proportion. Well, that's what I do. Okay. Let's see how we look on the inside. And here we are. Not a single scarf mark. Nothing. Can't think of any better way of doing this for especially odd shaped bowls. It's perfect every time. Now I'll take this and just sand this out until I get it flat. And like I said, once I get it completely flat, again, I will do one more buffing right on the drill press by putting the mix and letting the drum rotate it and give me a nice finish on this. Well, here's the finished piece. Signed, dated, and here's what it looks like. Hope you like it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. See you all later. Oh yeah. Definitely needs to work on my signature. I think I gotta go back to school and work on my penmanship. I know it's done with that rotozip. That's what I use anyway. I don't have probably the best tip for it either. There might be a specialty. I'll have to go look at it when I go pick up the cord for the drill press. So here it is.